and it's 6:39, so that is the official time. I'll hand it over to Alejandra, who is the chair of the evening.
Good evening, everyone. So great to see those of you who are on video. I wanted to join you all outside as well, but I didn't think I could pull it off. So go, Tim. So this is the first time I'm going to chair. So Kimberly, remind me, can you just do roll call so we make sure we have quorum and everybody checks in?
Yeah, yes, I can go ahead. Jane Grover, absent. Alejandra?
Here.
Dolores? Here. Wynn? Absent. Kathy? Max? Absent. Tim?
Here.
Kimberly? Joining.
Hi.
Hi, Kim. That was me. Sorry about the error. And
Oh,
Carla.
no problem. Thank you for helping me.
No, thank you for being patient. And Carla.
I'm here.
Perfect. We have a quorum.
Yay. Well, thank you again, everyone, for joining us tonight. It's a gorgeous night, so we appreciate taking the time to get on this call and do the important work of the commission. I think the first item on the agenda is approval of minutes. I hope that all commissioners had an opportunity to review the minutes. Can I get someone to make a motion to approve the minutes as is?
I move that the minutes be approved as sent.
I second.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Wonderful. The ayes have it. That was easy. Next thing on the agenda is public comment. Do we have anyone on the call tonight that would like to make public comment?
No, they're just observers.
Okay.
They're here to give us the clap like you get on the DNC convention at the end. They're here to give us a clap once we get this approved. So let's get, if we don't mind, oh, it's the first thing, great. Because I know Tim has to drop off soon.
Yes, so on the agenda and an item for consideration is the environmental justice resolution.
Yes, I sent an updated version in the email earlier today, so hopefully you all see it. If not, it's also listed on the website. Tim, do you need me to show it at all, or you're okay with it not being shared on the screen?
I'm okay with it not being shared on the screen unless other commissioners would like to need to see a copy. But if everyone has access to it through today's email, that may be just as easy. Okay. Would it be helpful for anyone if we shared it on the screen? Okay, if that doesn't, so thanks for asking, Kimberly. Well, let me just quickly say how pleased I am that the resolution is here for our vote tonight. I was invited to be part of the commission by Dr. Pat Effiam really almost 3 years ago now, with the focus being to help see this policy through. And so as my final act voting on it tonight, it's very satisfying to have come to this point. You all will remember, who were part of last month's meeting, that we had seen a copy of the resolution. From there, we decided as a commission for Max Weinberg, a commissioner, Kimberly, and then Jerry Garl, who's joining us tonight, who's on the Environment Board, to do some additional work on some final revisions before the resolution went to the Environment Board. And they reviewed it and made a slight addition earlier this month for us then to review before we send it on. So I've asked Jerry Garl to speak briefly to some of the changes that have taken place since we last saw the resolution.
Unmute yourself, Jerry.
Thank you. Yeah, that's always tricky. Thanks, Tim, and thank you for shepherding this through. As you are well aware, and I'm introducing my colleague, Rick Nelson, who he is the co-chair with Janet Alexander Davis of the Environmental Justice Evanston Group, on which I also participate, as well as being an Environment Board member. Max and Kimberly and I got our heads together to not only kind of pull some of the current sentiments about racial equity and racial justice into the resolution, but really looked at the language and tried to make it as relevant and meaningful as possible to the current situation and to Evanston. So what we did, and Kimberly, help me out if I get any of this wrong, but the very first two whereas statements in the document that you see in front of you are new, and they were added to emphasize not only Evanston's history, but looking in its future toward racial equity and addressing racial inequity and racial discrimination. The third, fourth, and fifth whereas statements are just the same. We did add a new sentence to the sixth whereas statement, and the whereas statement following that, the seventh one, is brand new. So if you have any questions about the changes that were made, again, the intent was to kind of add relevance and be more pointed about the purpose being to address discrimination and racial injustice. Any questions on the whereas statements before I move on?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Andrea.
Um,
Will these still have to go to the law department?
Kimberly, you're on mute. Easy to do.
The law department actually, I reviewed this before I went on vacation. So the law department wrote this up, and this is actually in final form to go directly to the Plan Commission once you all approve it.
So they did see it after they made the changes?
Correct. So
Okay.
this format that you see right here is the law department's version.
Okay.
I wanted to make sure that everything was completed so you all would have a final version.
Jerry, I was just gonna add, and I'm sorry if it's last minute, but in the sixth whereas, I would like to recommend that we add immigration status as one of those residents regardless of race, ethnicity. I would like to add immigration status.
That would be after ability
Sure.
and immigration status.
How does that sound? Does anybody have any questions about my recommendation?
Would this mean having to go back to the legal department for another review?
Oh, really? Okay. Sorry.
That's okay. That's fine.
Okay,
I mean, the hard part is the entire document.
So just one question on that. This is Rick Nelson of the Environmental Justice Evanston. Is it possible to get approval pending a change like that? So basically the approval is done and
Yes.
basically it's just pending that specific word being inserted?
Yes.
Okay.
right. That's exactly what we did with the Environment Board, Rick. We approved it as amended
Right.
with the additional language that we added.
I think it's a good and an important addition.
Any other comments on the whereases? Okay, so moving along, some of the other things that look different in this version are the wonderful legalese that kind of brought it to life. Actually, seeing it in this form made it real for me for the first time, and it's kind of emotional to see something that we've been working on for many years come to this close to actually being a resolution. So then now it be resolved language, etc. It's all beautiful. So that we have the sections 1 and 2 flipped. So section 1 is now the definitions, which is the consistent format for the city of Evanston. Section 2 now establishes the resolution as city policy, that the environmental justice is the city's policy, and the other sections are as they were before. The change that the Environment Board made is in section 6. That's the section that talks about developing and maintaining an active GIS-based inventory of environmental justice areas in Evanston. The Environment Board added the following sentence: environmental justice areas are geographic regions in which there are likely to be disparities in access to environmental assets or exposure to hazards. They wanted a little bit finer point on what we meant by an environmental justice area. And I actually think that's useful as we move on into the ordinance phase. Mm-hmm. Any comments on that? And then legal added section 7, which is it will be in full force and effect after the date of its passage. So Alejandra, is that, are we, that's all I have.
Thank you, Jerry. And I don't have any additional words as well. I'm happy to move this for a vote.
Are there any questions before we call for a motion?
I have no questions, just to say congratulations. It reminds me of the days of marching in front of the transfer station years ago. So when we first started this, so it's great. And I know Janet is going to be extremely happy.
And thank you, Dolores, for all of your support on the waste transfer station.
Janet Davis and Dorothy Head, who with Alderman Holmes were part of citizen organizing, what, 8-9 years ago now.
Yeah.
And this has passed through so many different groups. Different individuals have influenced it along the way, and so there's much to celebrate. We're not done. We'll need to pass it up for additional votes, but passing it through this commission is a great success. I'm anticipating a successful vote.
Excuse me, this is Andy Schlickman. I'm sorry I don't have the video on. I just had some eye surgery and you don't want to see that. But Jerry, I thought I downloaded from the website the current version of the resolution that has the number at the top of it and everything. Where is that additional language that defines an environmental justice area? Is that in section 6?
It's in section 6. It's the second sentence.
Yeah, but is that updated on the website? Because I got the new version from Tim.
Oh, well, it's the version that Kimberly posted on the...
Be it. I mean, again, I will take error. Human error is my cup of tea lately. So let me check to make sure it should have it, because it's from...
I just printed it out.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Not very environmental. But yeah, it's the updated version is the one that's on the commission.
It's not in the packet. It's actually, you won't find it. The one that's in the packet, we revised this afternoon. So the updated one is actually listed on the site as updated environmental justice resolution underneath the packet.
So I'm actually going to forward the current version to Andy, so he
No,
has it.
I just opened it up and where it was just described in the packet, and I have that language in front of me now. So I just want to make sure there was no confusion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. By the way, I didn't introduce myself. I'm a resident of Evanston. I go to the Unitarian Church, and I'm beginning to work with Environmental Justice Evanston. So thank you for all your help on this.
Thank
Wonderful.
you, Andy.
Well, thank you everyone for your comments, and I'll share a pre-congratulations for all the historic work put into this. Organizing matters, and it works. So with that, can I call for someone to make a motion to approve the language What was the language we were saying before?
As amended.
As amended.
I so move.
Can I get a second?
I'm happy to second.
A second.
And all those in favor, please say aye.
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 The ayes have it unanimously. Congratulations, this has passed. Woo-hoo. Thank you for all your work.
All right, so we will, so I will start preparing the final version, and I will send that out to you all once the law department updates it again with that added language, so you will know that it's been updated. And then we'll move it to, I'll hand it over to Johanna for her staff to prepare whatever she needs to do to put it on P&D.
So Kimberly, if I could ask, just as far as timing, so I think in September, I think going by the normal schedule, the Planning and Development Committee would probably be meeting on the 14th. So do we have any idea if it's possible for, you know, this new version that's been approved to be submitted for that meeting?
Yeah, so I will know on Tuesday what the schedule looks like for P&D. So if P&D goes forward as planned, it will be on that agenda because we have time to post it.
Okay.
Just remember it's the budget season, so coming up, so things might be delayed. So don't be disappointed if it gets delayed.
Yeah. Well, this is, you know, the good thing is that it's a resolution, so it's just an action, so it doesn't require two readings, which is a help to get this, you know, acknowledged.
Right. So if I could just ask one more question, as long as the meeting is convened here. Is there any problem with our Environmental Justice Evanston group communicating that, for example, the commission has now approved this version of the Environmental Justice Resolution?
I don't see, I mean, it's an action, so.
I'm assuming it's public knowledge, so.
It's an action. So, I mean, that's fine. It's just pending city council approval, which is where the actual enforcement happens.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you all so much.
Yes, this made our day.
Yay. Don't we all need some good news? Okay, then we are moving on the agenda to discussion points. And so currently there are 2 discussion points: commission retreat, commission bylaws, and I will provide a quick update as a 3rd point on the truth subcommittee. But if we can start with an update of the commission retreat. Kimberly, were you going to talk about that? I don't think we've got a date yet.
So I was in a part of the planning of this agenda. Thankfully, Shanika, I will hand it over to you because this is your meeting.
Real smooth, Kimberly. But honestly, I think that Jane is not here tonight. I think she was going to be the forefront of the conversation, but I think she just kind of wanted to have you all discuss what are some retreat ideas. I'm not sure if there was a discussion prior to the last couple of meetings around the retreat. So that's kind of where we are with that. And she's not here to give any more context, but that's where I got off with the retreat.
Okay. I know that, you know, this point B is also a discussion that we wanted to raise at this retreat and reviewing of bylaws. We've gone back and forth just to make sure that there is clarity both within the commission and in the community about, you know, our purpose and what our bylaws are and strengthening that. And so I think, you know, when Jane gets back from her vacation, we won't rush her. We can definitely sit down and talk with you, Shanika, to talk about getting an agenda together for that retreat and then getting folks' availability and to see what works. And I don't want to waste time on those details on the call unless anybody has anything to add. And I see you, Alderman Holmes. Please go ahead.
No, I'm just saying the last time we had a retreat, we did a half day, Saturday morning kind of thing. If I remember, like a 8 to 12 or something like that, or 10 to 2. I can't remember the exact timing. And so it's going to have to be that, unless we're talking about an all day, kind of thing, because you can't do one in the evening. People are just too tired and worked all that day. So we need a fresh start, whatever. So my suggestion would be that we consider choosing another half day, maybe on a Saturday for the people who work.
So I would also recommend, if you're going to have it do virtual, that you may have to break it up into multiple days, because it is really hard to sit in a Zoom call for 2 hours, let alone a half a day. So that's something to consider. Maybe one is training or some type of, retreat to get to know, familiarize yourself, whatever, and the other one's more business related. But I think you may want to break them up just as just knowing fatigue when it comes to these types of settings.
You're absolutely correct. I was thinking that we would do it like we did before, that we'd be in person, but I keep forgetting that we can't do anything in person.
That's right.
Everything is virtual now. So, but you're absolutely right, because some days I am just zoomed out after I've done 2 or 3 meetings.
Absolutely. Excellent shaking of heads. Carla, can I get your feedback, and Kimberly, about when we do a retreat, what would work for you? Is like a 2-hour on a Saturday, and then maybe the following Saturday, another 2 hours? How does that sound to you?
That works fine for me. Once I know in advance, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, my camera's off. I'm nursing. That would work for me as well. A Saturday or a Sunday morning or afternoon. It's fine.
Great. So you know what? When Jane comes back, maybe Shanika, you and Alejandra and Jane can talk about putting together a doodle poll, so we can kind of see what multiple days are available for folks. So that way you don't have to go back and forth. That's always helpful, I find. And then the majority date will just be, and those who can't, if you can't make it, we understand, but we'll figure out how we'll record it. So that's the nice part about this, is that we can share it, if we need to, for those who aren't able to participate.
Right.
I will follow up with Jane probably early next week, probably on Monday or something, when she gets back into town.
And we can put a preliminary agenda with some goals on there to share at our next commission meeting, and we'll do doodle, so we don't have to spend too much time on administrative stuff on these calls.
Appreciate it. And then also, was it facilitated, Alderman? Were your meetings facilitated by outside?
We had outside consultant, actually, the YW, Eileen and
Tiffany.
yeah.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Alejandra, I'm going to sign off. I just wanted to thank all of you, and especially recognize Tim's efforts through all this process, and good luck to all of you in your mission. Thanks.
Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry.
Good night.
I'd also like to,
Good night.
I'd also
Good night,
like to say
everyone.
goodbye to everybody too. Much appreciated. You've actually provided some great input for the resolution over time, and we really appreciate everyone's consideration as far as getting this thing passed. So thank you so much.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Nelson.
Bye-bye now.
Bye. Okay, so, okay, that's good direction. Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay, and just as part of the discussion agenda, I just wanted to give a quick update on the Truth Subcommittee. And this may be new news for our newest commissioners, Carla and Kimberly. But it feels like so long ago. As Alderwoman Ruth Simmons shared with us her intent and information about the ordinance for reparations, we started having conversations about what our role could be in getting folks more involved, to learn about reparations and to be more engaged in this work. And so Eileen Hinneman, who's been mentioned before, who actually co-facilitated our last commission retreat, is a director of the Racial Justice, I think, department at the YWCA. And she shared with the commission their work on hosting racial healing circles. And so the Evanston YWCA has been part of the Truth in Racial Healing initiative that by chance happens to be housed at the Woods Fund, which is where I happen to work. That was not planned. But what a number of us on the commission talked about is our interest in being able to engage community members in really being more knowledgeable and engaged in being able to move some really concrete initiatives forward to build a more equitable Evanston. And healing circles really seemed to be something that was already happening in community and that we felt could be an opportunity and a vehicle to move that forward by bringing communities together. And so Eileen was not aware that the commission actually had already met last month. And so we have not, the subcommittee, this is the only subcommittee actually that's currently active and that has a non-commission member and an Evanston employee. Well, Eileen works at the YWCA, she lives in Skokie, but she is a member of this subcommittee because she brings this knowledge and this practice. And so the subcommittee has not met. And so I spoke to Eileen earlier today, and we are looking to reconvene the subcommittee sometime in early September. You know, the subcommittee is brand new. We are still refining our purpose, but in general, I will say that commissioners wanted to really get engaged in how we make the city of Evanston more equitable and really lifting up reparations as the topic that could really elevate conversations that are much needed in our communities. And so they've got a new practice where they have these healing circles in affinity groups and then bring them all together. And so I had a fascinating conversation with her this morning. And so we're looking to reconvene this subcommittee. We're looking at also making this short for the same reason that Kimberly shared and Dolores shared. We just, you know, bless you. You know, this would be maybe a 45 to 60-minute call to review the purpose and next steps of starting to host these healing circles. And currently we've got, I believe, myself, Alderman Nguyen, Jane Grover, on the subcommittee, Alderman Holmes on the subcommittee. And so we wanted to open it up if anybody else, especially our new commission members, were interested in being part of this subcommittee. I will send out a doodle to see your availability for our first subcommittee meeting. So we welcome it, but we're not trying to fill you up with more meetings. But Carla, yes, please.
I have a question. Could you explain the healing circle for me and what this entails? And I guess I asked the question of the racial healing of if we are not doing it, and again, how I'm interpreting healing, any discussion of racial healing on the tail of racial, like education about racism.
Right.
We're just setting people up to like, be like, oh yeah, kumbaya. And then 3 seconds later, I'm gonna hurt you because I didn't learn anything. Right. So I'm just trying to get a context of healing.
Yeah.
And if it's coming on the back of some learning.
Yeah. Yeah, I will share. There are some documents. This is not my line of expertise, to be completely honest with you. It's a project that is housed at the Woods Fund, but Eileen and her team, that includes Tiffany McDowell, and I think some other staff, have really, it really has changed a little bit and adapted over the past couple of months. It does incorporate, it now incorporates some real, what I would say, more political education, or in Spanish we call, or in Portuguese, right, is based on Paulo Freire, is the concientización, right? So it builds this self-awareness. And so I will tell you, I've been to one of the most recent racial healing circles that was specifically for the Latinx community, because we've been hosting these in philanthropy. And the first components really are about recognizing how white supremacy manifests itself in the Latinx community. And so this really requires a safe, brave space for folks, and that's why they're in affinity groups, so that folks can come to terms with the impact, the role and impact of white supremacy in their culture, in their community, and their lives. And so there is, right now, the sessions are between 3 and 4 sessions to create that space for learning. It is partially the vocabulary. It's not a racial equity training, but it does have components of learning and self-awareness, so that people can come more self-aware to then have a conversation in a more, what we call them in philanthropy. I'm part of the Chicago Latinos in Philanthropy. So we have like a joint affinity group. And so each of the affinity groups are going through their own training, and then they're coming together after they've been through their 3 or 4 sessions. And so that's the way that the healing circles have been adapted over the last couple of months, that we create brave, safe spaces in affinity groups so that we can all come together more self-aware. Does that make sense?
Okay, thank you. Yes, no, thank you for that explanation. It definitely seems like there's some education going on there. And you have me at quoting Pablo from Pedagogy of the Oppressed, like down. Good.
Carla and Kimberly, that is one component of the Evanston Truth.
Yes.
Because we talked about several things that we could do. One of the things that we know is that people who have been injured, who need healing, have lots of stories to tell. So we talked about the possibility of having, using the Gibbs Morrison recording studio to record some of those stories, because they become really long when you're in a group. So there are several ideas. Nothing has been done. Those of us, some of us on the committee, well, Jane and Melissa and I think we're in the same group. Kimberly, you were in our group as well. I think we did yes, we did.
I was like,
We
I
went
thought
to one of the
I
groups.
was planning. I thought we were planning something. I was like, I haven't been planning anything.
No, we attended one of the healing circles. God, I can't even remember when now.
January, before COVID.
Yeah, everything was before. But we did attend one. It was my first time attending one, but it was very similar to training that we had gone through before. And I'm trying to think of the name of the training that the city did with all of the staff in the community.
Beyond Diversity?
Beyond Diversity. So if you've done Beyond Diversity training, there is a particular part in that where you exchange with a person, some important pieces about your life and that kind of thing. And that was basically what we did in the healing circle. Was we partnered up with one person and made some exchanges, and we did a lot of different kinds of exercises. So for me, it leaves a lot to be worked upon in terms of healing. So I hear what you're saying about healing.
Yeah. It's a start.
It's a start. Everything is a start.
Right. Oh, and one last thing that I'll add is that we really wanted to also make sure that we stayed connected with the work and the progress of the reparations committee. And so I know that committee meets on a regular basis. And so we wanted to make sure that we stayed in touch with them and that there are open lines of communication.
Mm-hmm.
So Carla, are you interested?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know if your hand was just a question or
yeah, no, my hand at the time was a question, but I do equity training work too, so I'd just be
wonderful.
Interesting.
Okay. I will send out a doodle to those who are on the committee and to you, Carla. So
you can include me as well.
Wonderful, Kimberly. Thank you. So I will set that up offline so we can find a date and time that works for all. And we'll make sure that happens sometime in early September, if possible. Okay, so that was my quick report and update. I don't think there's anything else on the agenda.
No, I have two things. So one, under communications, reparations, you mentioned there will be a reparations town hall coming up this next week on don't give me that look.
Who's giving you luck?
I might be in Zoom, but I still feel the burn on next week on next Thursday at 7 p.m. I will send that out to you all. It's just being finalized. So this is what I come back to. So we are going to have that. And then the following day is the next reparations subcommittee meeting, which we meet at 9:15 on Fridays. We are getting close to something. I think the last meeting, with the support of a lot of staff members as well as the historians of our community, we were able to, with Dino and the Evanston Historic Center, they were able to put together. I see, Kimberly, now I'm distracted.
No, I see the baby and I started smiling. I want to just reach and grab him.
It's so cute. Oh, goodness. Too cute. Okay, I'm going to stay focused though. So that's happening. I will have a better update to provide the committee at that time. But lastly, I want to share, unless there's a question regarding reparations.
Can you, what is the town hall about? That's new to me. had not heard of it.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, is it an update? Is it an update on status or what?
No, I mean, it's more, so from the emails that I've received, it's going to be a mixture of both, of having keynote speakers as well as an update from the committee.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
So I will send that out to you all as soon as I have it okayed that this is the final version. And lastly, I want to share, and I'll be very quick because I want to be mindful of the time, and not everyone's here today. So I really want to share this with the group as an initial discussion item, and then we can go more in depth at the next meeting. I'm going to share the document so you can see it. So I apologize if you can't. I'm going to try my hardest to ensure that the font is big enough. But I've been working on the last couple, I would say, the last month, I really have been sitting still and not thinking about COVID so much, and thinking about how are we going to move forward with equity in the organization. I think a lot of this work requires a dedicated staff person. I recognize that. At this time, it's me, but I think that I really wanted to be thoughtful about it, and I really wanted to look at it long-term and not these short little just one-offs, really having a plan that's cohesive. And the biggest struggle I had, to be honest with you, is how do I integrate you all into this so that you have a purpose beyond just some of these little things that you're doing otherwise. So I'll be very quick, and again, I know everyone's not here tonight, so I gladly will do this again. But as I say, I'm using the GARE, which is the Government for Racial Equity, Government Alliance for Racial Equity. I guess you would say their mantra of normalize, operationalize, and organize racial equity within the city of Evanston. And when I say that, I'm really referring to the organization, not the community. I want to be very clear that a lot of this is, we have to work on ourselves internally, as I think I mentioned before. So my idea is that this will be a 3-year process, and I will show you how that 3 years will look. Again, this is just the first, second, and third draft, but it's still in draft mode. But the 3-year racial equity will be organizational driven change. So this is my idea of a theory of change process that will focus on the City of Evanston's internal environment to strengthen department's capacity and impact through a racial equity framework. It will address the legacy effects of institutionalized racism on the current programs and policies found within the internal standard operating procedures of government administration. That's me getting my good MPA language out, which will include like hiring and looking at our internal structures with HR, our program, how we fund things. So how do we do this? So it's a 3 years, I said. So the first year, which if we're now, I think we need to start today, but it's the training is first. I think, Carla, you mentioned this, like how do you like get people to where you need them to get? They don't have the background in it. And so the first part of this is to do the fundamental training in racial equity. And I was very explicit about saying public administration because some of the trainings I've seen has been more about awareness. And I think that's important, but I also think we need to bring it back to how it's the organization and the policies of how we govern also. And so trying to marry those two in some way, and it might have to be multiple ways of doing that type of training. But who will be initially trained will be our senior leadership, which will include our city manager and department heads. You all have to be a part of this as well, and hopefully our city council. Now, I do recognize our city council is going to be near the end of their tenure as the current seated class, but city council, but hopefully we can figure out a way to get some training in there that makes sense. What I will need from you all and what I will like is one of you who might be interested in work with me with identifying an external training program facilitator, consultant, who we want to call it, because this cannot be done internally. I don't think we don't have the bandwidth, and I want someone that's deep in understanding government who can do this training. And I would love for it to be someone, doesn't necessarily need to be local to Evanston, but local to the region, because I really think Midwest is so different than the West Coast and the East Coast and so forth, that I really want to make sure it's relatable to who we are and our culture. Mm-hmm. And so I would love to work with one of the committee members, commissioners, because this to me needs to be a joint effort. As you all will be engaged in this and will be kind of like the catalyst to how we start doing trainings for our other boards and commissions as well. Because the hope is taking this training and being able to modify or do something with it that will then be able to be shared with the other boards and commissions. So internally though, this is not a one-person job. Regardless if you have a staff person or not who's dedicated to this, this really takes an effort of all. I would like to create what I call a Racial Equity, Diversity, Inclusion Committee, READY Committee. And this will be a committee that would be of hopefully 10 to 12 members of our organization. We are not looking to have senior leadership in this role. Really, we're looking for all those under leadership that can be a part of this. We will have an application process because really the intention for that first group is really to find those people who are really interested in doing the work, not voluntold to do the work, because this is going to be a lot of work. It's a 2-year commitment with 2 co-chairs. So one thing, as I said, I will not be a part of this committee. This is a committee that I will be there to advise and give guidance from the leadership standpoint, and have the SNP task. But really what I would like to do is empower staff, and so identifying 2 individuals who would co-chair, and then they will be the ones sitting in the room in our department head meetings, like just making sure connecting that the work that is being done. They will have, with this process, this is where we will have what I call our equity coach, is an individual externally that will help facilitate this process. Because again, we don't have the capacity internally to do this. So I have identified an individual who worked with us for our social services review using a racial equity lens. And staff really appreciated and enjoyed the work of Kathleen. And so I asked would she be willing to help us start this process, and she said she would. She's a professor at UIC, and I actually invited her next month to come to our meeting to kind of observe, and so you guys can get to know who she is, because I really think it's important to have that relationship. So Equity Empowerment Commission, you are a part of it. So you all would not be a part of the internal committee, but what I would like for eventually to happen is the committee is coming to you and sharing with you what's happening, some of the ideas. If that needs to be fleshed out, I think that would be a conversation that we will have at the retreat about what that relationship should look like. But as to goals that I would love to see, I would love to see to establish and update their equity statement and goals. And I think that really should come from this committee, because it's really something that should come through city council and not staff led. And so this would be something this is again a conversation that can be had later, that should, I think, be set by the council, because you're representative of the community. So, what does the community think of what racial equity means? I mean, that's the question. And so, means for the community. And so that will be something I put in there, the healing and reconciliation, which you mentioned already, Alejandra. And then we're talking about the engagement policy that we're, been discussing at previous meetings. And then creating a training curriculum for other boards and commissions. I think that needs to be something that has to happen, because we can't just leave it to the staff. It has to be, again, this has to be part of the culture shifting. And some of the stuff that happens in the committees, to me, it's just as harmful at times than, what happens in the staff level. And then we talked about identifying community indicators. Now, this one will require some outside support, maybe partnering up with Northwestern or some other institution that can do research, because this is not something that you can just go onto someone else's website, pull their indicator report and say, okay, let's adapt it to ours. You really need to know the data. So coming through this committee would be something we can discuss. What does that mean? How does that data is developed? Who's going to be responsible for it, and so forth. Again, this is my drafting, and you all can provide, I know maybe tonight is not the night, but this is something I will share with you all for our next meeting. So if there's something that you have questions about, and then just going on to the participatory budgeting. So this is something that I am a big fan of allocating a certain dollar amount. So as you might have heard, Northwestern, in lieu of their Good Neighbor Fund, has created this equity fund that they have dedicated towards racial equity. And so what does that mean? I'm still trying to figure that out right now, and that will be something I will share with you all too. But participatory budgeting is allocating certain funds that the community decides where it goes. You see it successfully happening in our neighboring in Chicago. Many of their wards have participatory budgeting for projects that they allocate funding to. And this is a way, it's not the city's budget because there's a lot of operations, but it's a designating dollars that the community can say how it should be invested. So that's something that we want to start looking into, hopefully for the 22 budget. Can't believe it's 22, oh my gosh. And then again, just going through. And so within the second year, hopefully end of first year, beginning of second year, we will evaluate how to recruit a racial equity coordinator and understanding the resources that office needs. As my hope is that because of the work that we're going to be doing grounding in, that there is going to be an understanding that what we're looking for in a racial equity coordinator or officer, and that way allowing for us to hopefully recruit someone that can come in to continue to support the work and expand on the work. And I was very explicit about making it the second year and not the third or the first, just because I feel like we have a lot of cleanup work that we have to do as an organization, that you can't ask a person to come in and tell them, okay, now create this, and then you expect them in 3 to 6 weeks to have an action plan, and racism is ended in Evanston. So I really want us to have understanding and grounding in that before bringing another staff person on. But with that, recognizing we do need to bring someone into this that will help staff with this work, because we recognize that it does not happen, it's going to require additional support. And so it just goes on to 3. These are just continue with the committee, adding new members every year. So even though I'm saying it's a 2-year commitment, every year there's a new group coming on board. So every year you're building the capacity, because the goal is to bring it back into the organization and into the departments, so that you have more staff in the departments that can do this work and understand this work. And hopefully over time, because of the trainings and the accountability that we want to build into this, you are able to then begin to slowly change the culture of how we look at policies and practices within the city. So this is where I'm at, and I look forward to any feedback. If you have any tonight, or if you have any, later, please add that. I, again, will bring this back to the committee, probably fleshed out a little bit more. But I thought I wanted to share with you all. I committed to sharing with you all some strategy of how we're going to move forward.
If we're going to discuss it at the next meeting, will you send it out with the agenda so
Yes.
we can? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So we can
this
look
was
at it.
just me. Yeah, this was I was going to send it out, and then I realized what I had. You guys would be like, "What is this?" So I thought I'd give a precursor before sending it out next week. So I will have it.
Okay, and then the other thing you said about somebody who had experience with working with the government. What's his name? Professor L. Is it Tilly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Alvin
I know
Tilly.
he promised. I mean, he offered to work with us. When he came and did some training or did a session for us, as well as he's done something for the city council. So we have Northwestern right here at our fingertips. So why wouldn't we use someone like that rather than bringing somebody else in?
Well, because I am very familiar with with Dr. Tillery, and he and I spoke, and he and I agreed, like, it's different. It's not the same what he is able to provide. And so his area of expertise is really data science. So he'll be the person that will be helping me try to figure out how we can allocate some resources. So I have been in contact with him, but he recognized this is not his area.
Okay.
I guess I'd just like to say bless you, because sort of any kind of streamlined structure of where I coming in have been trying to kind of figure out, okay, where is this leading? Where do we fit in the hierarchy of things within the actual City of Evanston role? How do things flow? How do ideas come up for us to even work on? And how is that all interconnected? Do we flow things to them? Do they flow things down to us? And this just helping see that, okay, it might be a little bit of a clean slate, but there's a plan, or there's a plan for a plan, maybe. It's just helpful to be like, okay, we are starting to build a path. But one other thing I think is worth including there is that there's no line to the public. What does the public want us as a committee, us as the city, whatever, to be working on from equity? One of my questions tonight was going to be, what decides what we as a committee works on? Is it because one of us an idea popped into our head? That's not necessarily a perfect flow for what's equitable, right? Because that's likely to be just a thorn in our personal side or our project. But we should have some way to have sort of a line, a feed, a input, suggestion box, whatever the hell it is, from the constituents, so that they're feeding into requests of what we work on or what the city works on this topic of equity. But thank you, that was very helpful.
No, that's actually a great point. I mean, I was thinking about that too, but here's the thing, I don't want to speak for the commission. And so I think that grounded in the training and wherever you guys would do for the retreat would dictate that. But I do agree there has to be an external component. I can only speak to the internal components because there's a lot of internal work that has to be done. But I also agree too that we can't forget the public in this process. That's a good point.
No, I think it's an excellent point. And I think that's something that we need to, struggle with a little bit more at our retreat, because there has been a question about what is our role internally and externally, and right now it's been, I don't want to say it's been driven by the city, but because, we've had a coordinator and now we meet with Kimberly, that has helped set the agenda. And so I think that's something that we should struggle with and work through so that we can all be on the same page.
I'm just asking for a pass. Is it that in the past things came down to this committee and then we discussed whatever topic we were given? I'm just trying to understand what happened for the things that have been worked on.
It has and I'm sorry, anxious because I want to watch the convention.
I know.
But
I know,
to answer you, Carla, it's a very good question. And the committee, I don't want to say we were hijacked, but I feel like we were hijacked. We had started a plan and working on what we wanted to do, what we thought we needed to do, what we thought we were hearing. But then the two aldermen came in with two different things that has taken up the last year and a half of our time in terms of doing, first, the Ninth Ward Alderman brought in the resolution that we had to stop work on that. Then Fifth Ward Alderman brought in reparations. But before she brought in reparations, she brought in solutions only. And her idea was only, she didn't want to hear any talking, she just wanted solutions. And so we tried to do that. Well, we didn't try, we did it. We figured out how to do it and we did it and got the input from the community because we knew it had to be community-based. So we held town halls and had over 100 people attend. I think we did 3 sessions. I think it was 3 sessions, and had people come and put their ideas around what needed to happen. So now we're trying to get back to where we were in the beginning to really work out our role.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to say hijacked in a negative way, but you know, when you're on a path and then you get sort of thrown off of it. So
thank you.
I've become like the gatekeeper of this committee. It's so many stuff that's come down. I'm like, nope. So it's hard. It's very hard when you have, because I mean, this is the word equity is in this committee. You know, everyone wants you all to solve the problems. Right. That really just that we internally have to solve a little bit of them. So anyway, so that's where I'm at. And I'm sorry.
I was gonna say one of the things that just strikes me about that model is that from what you have outlined, the city has not been through any equity training yet. So the idea of ideas to work on for equity flowing from them, I'm like, okay, but they haven't had that training. So,
no, right. That is correct. That is very correct.
Yeah.
But I would like to, so one thing, and I'm going to be mindful with 736. I do like to see if there's someone on this commission that would be interested in working with me to flesh out the training discussion a little bit more, so that I can have a little bit more of, you know, I want to provide a little bit more context to that, I guess. And so I really felt it would be helpful to get that from a commissioner. Now, again, you don't have to, I'm capable of figuring it out. I just thought it's a good opportunity to kind of have that shared experience so that we can have alignment.
Mm-hmm. Maybe when everyone is here at the next meeting, unless somebody wants to do it now.
Okay,
because
I can wait.
We're missing 3. Well, Carla's raising her hand.
Well, I'm just saying, because I do this work not for like government type, but I know multiple people in this business. So at the very least, I should be able to sort of farm that group to say, do you know anybody who does this equity and inclusion and anti-racism work in specifically government? So at the very least, I can kind of help with that.
That would be helpful.
So I can be in contact.
Yeah. I mean, Gare does somewhat, but I need, you know, it's kind of hard because they're kind of a cookie cutter model. But long story short, I can talk to you, Carla, offline, and we can discuss more, because it's, people have to realize it's different than just the normal nonprofit. So, okay, that's all I have. I just wanted to, like I said, I wanted to share what I was been doing. I didn't want you guys to think that I had not, you know, been, you know, moving forward this work. So that's all, and I will definitely send this out in a nicer format, and I will share it with the whole commission at the next meeting.
Wonderful. Kimberly, we do have other agenda items on here. We do have a report that you were going to provide on the staff equity workplace.
That's this.
Oh, fabulous. All right. We have
We're done.
Anything else to add? Does anybody have any additional questions or things to add?
Mm-mm.
No.
If not, can we spend some time just thanking Tim? I know this will be your last meeting. Is this right? Can I guilt you to stay on?
Yes, this is my last meeting. Much appreciation to those who I've had the honor to work with over these last 2.5 years. and Kimberly, working with you this last year. I'm really excited about the direction of the commission and your work with the city. As I shared with Kimberly, I'm not stepping off because I'm no longer committed to this work. It's simply an issue of time management. I'm directing a new degree at the seminary, a Master of Arts in Public Ministry with concentrations in racial justice, liberatory education, Frary features prominently, and ecological regeneration. And so my workload is just more than I can handle there. And so I'm still in Evanston, hope to be here for the long haul. I'm as committed as ever to this work. And so as there are opportunities for, if I can be helpful in any way, in a targeted way, please continue to reach out. I remain an ally, an advocate, in deep solidarity with the work. So blessings to you all, and I'm sure we'll continue to engage in the struggle together in some other ways.
Tim, it was great meeting you and working with you over these last 3 years. Well, it feels like 3 years. I think our term is up in December, right?
Almost 3 years, yeah.
Almost 3 years, so yeah. So it's been really great. And I think we did some good stuff.
We did.
Yeah, Tim, thanks for everything. I hope that one day when we have all recovered from COVID, I might bump into the ETHS halls as we go to parent teacher conferences and really spend some time together. But stay healthy, stay well, and thanks for all that you have provided to this commission.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. I think this is it. Can I call for a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Tim, do the honors.
I second.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you.
everyone. It was a pleasure. Have a good night. Stay healthy and well. And look out for my doodle sometime next week.
Okay, see you next month.
Take care.
And I will fix the calendars, so
Bye.
I will make sure we'll have prompts again.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Bye.
Love that baby, Kimberly, for me.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.